Good evening. I have been really considering all of the situations and factors that are going on in my life. But the topic that I wanted to discuss with you today is about betrayal. Now I know that everybody has experienced some kind of betrayal in their life, one way or the other. And each of us have varied ways of dealing with that. And I say this in compassion because I know firsthand betrayal that no one should ever have to experience. No. And I try to wrap my head around it. But I spent most of my life making excuses for people to treat me a certain way, or I was told, to be Christ-like, I had to have compassion and be forgiving and just forgive and forgive and forgive, and which I do, because I really don't want to carry, that heaviness forever. But some betrayals run so deep that, you you can't imagine. It can't just take, a minute or two. It takes sometimes maybe even a lifetime to fully recover from the scars of betrayal. And when I consider this word, and it implies someone that you have trusted or who you have given your trust to has betrayed you, has let you down, has not lived up to the trust that you gave them, right? Whether it be in a marriage, a church, a doctor, a school, and any kind of institution, friendships, that you think that, a person, you think you know a person, and then when you find out that you don't know them, and clearly they didn't know you either, they didn't, and it goes hand in hand with respect as well. Betrayal and respect are, there's not one without, respect would keep you from betrayal. So, when someone is betrayed, it conveys an utter lack of respect for an individual. Hold on just a second. Alexa, please play a lullaby. I want some soothing music.
Here's lullabies and bedtime music on Amazon Music.
Okay. Which is perfect. Lullaby music. When I was growing up, my dad was Methodist, my mother was LDS, right? And it was all about the family. Everything was about the family. Alexa, decrease volume once. But that was the whole message. It was that the mother, father, sister, brother, and being families are together forever, right? And even though my father, for most of his life was not a member of the LDS faith, he did believe in Jesus Christ, and he had a philosophy that that you had to forgive everybody, no matter what they did to you. You automatically just have to forgive them. And and give them another chance, and maybe once, maybe twice, but but then there comes a point where you realize that when the betrayal runs so deeply that you have to make a decision for yourself. Now, I don't like someone uses the word. People use the word apologetics on here quite a bit. People that make apologies or excuses for betrayal and try to create a narrative or reconstruct a narrative to help people acclimate to betrayal. So if I change the narrative, it'll be easier for you to mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically acclimate to this new story that will help you slide from this falsehood into this new falsehood. Because nobody really wants to look things with a magnifying glass. Alexa, skip. Alexa, skip. Alexa, play soft lullaby music.
Team Up Bedtime Unwing on Amazon Music.
Anyway, I was looking for a lullaby. Because when we're born, you know, we hold our babies and we sing lullabies. We do. I sang my children so many lullabies. I always sang to them, and our house was full of music all the time. So anyway, back to the subject. When we make apologies or rewrite a narrative to make it easier, in some ways it can be a bridge. Like, you know, in a song, you can write the lyrics, and then there's refrain, and a lot of times in these songs there's a bridge, you know, that will kind of expand the whole song. You know, sometimes the bridge is the most important part, right? But there's a bridge that takes you to the other side of it, right? And then you go back to either a verse or a chorus, right? So, you know, you come to this bridge, and it helps you transition from a betrayal or a misconception. They can have different words for it, you know. To some it's just outright betrayal, but to other they want to just, oh, it was a misconception. They didn't know what they were talking back way back then. They didn't know. We didn't have, you know, good forensics at the time. What do we know? But you know, I've said this before, and it's glaringly real to me. That my faith, you know, it's very strong. I don't know how I would have gotten through the betrayals in my life if I didn't pray to the Savior. You know, I just wouldn't have. You know, honestly, I'm hanging on by my fingernails too most days because of this, you know, resounding cruelty that I have been surrounded by. That was completely undeserved in any way, shape, or form. You know, they're just really digging for something that I could be slandered for. But, you know, when that didn't work out, they had to fabricate a few things. But anyway, no, I really had to put my faith in Jesus Christ. And I was born doing that. I was born doing that before I really understood religion anyway. But religion is an industry. I mean, anybody can do. It is, you know, and it's not. It's a, you know, it's meant to uplift you and to help you in many ways. It is. I don't think all religion is bad. Of course not. I think it's where people go, and I know that we promised in Scripture that when, you know, when two or more of these gather in my name, there I will be. I think I just said that verbatim. And so I think that's true. I think it's the intent of what's in somebody's heart that decides, you know, whether the Savior can assist and attend or whether he can't attend. And he has a very hard time attending if the intentions aren't real. But when you understand, though, that as far as the administration or the hierarchy of the faith, different faiths, you know, it is for money. And yes, some of them do use these funds, you know, some of them for humanitarian work, which is beautiful. I think that's amazing. I think that's exactly what we should be doing. No question about it. But in my particular situation, you know, there's a whole culture. And, you know, when you're raised believing that families are forever, and the first Sunday of every month, when you get up to that podium and you say, I would like to bear my testimony that I know this church is true, and that Joseph Smith was a prophet of God, and the Book of Mormon is divine revelation to modern man today, you know, things of that nature, you know. And when you get up there and you say it, and that you have a testimony of the prophets of God, and that certain prophets that are running the church, you know, are truly called of God, you know, they're not just kind of decided upon within the, you know, the male hierarchy, which they really are, you know. And yes, they're set apart. There's certain procedures and everything. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to deny that good men aren't there. That's not my point. Because I'm sure that as time goes on and new forensic science comes out and different things it's kind of like, what are we going to do now, kind of a feeling, you know, because, you know, we got a good thing going and we've built all these temples, which, you know, is another form of masonry. Okay, Alexa, stop. Okay, well, I didn't get a lullaby. I was really hoping for some lullabies, but that didn't happen. Um, Alexa, play some hymns.
Here's Piano Hymns on Amazon Music.
Thank you. So, as we learn, about Christ and how he began to, we have a lot more to learn about his life and what happened and, back in those days, right? But the things that Jesus taught, of course, we all have agreement on, that he was really, actually, maybe not though, because I know that he, at that time, he was trying to free people from harsh dogma of the Jewish faith at that time and their taxation and everything that they were going through. And he was really trying to help them to be more civilized with each other. He wasn't trying to take them out of one dogma truly and put them just in another one. Yes, they call it Christianity. Yes, they made a church out of it. But that was kind of a government thing. And I'm sure you can do the history. They turned it into more of a, because a lot of people followed Jesus, and most famous guy on earth, right? and his principles were sound and relatable, and he really was trying to free people. He wasn't trying to further oppress them. But along the way, we know from the times of King Henry and the Church of England and different faiths, Martin Luther, and that came along the way, that people need to believe that, and we do. We and somewhere inside of ourselves, most of us believe and feel inside that we do have a divine creator that made us. There's got to be a reason for this. I can't believe it's for nothing. I would never believe it's for nothing. And being very sensitive to, my ancestors that have passed on, even when I was a little kid. Man, I could tell you some stories, maybe I will sometime. But, and churches know that's true. Having a spiritual sensitivity is not this new thing. Religions know that's true. The Catholic Church knows that's true. So does the LDS. LDS people call it they call them ministering angels, which a ministering angel is different than like an archangel or a godly angel that has never had a body. A ministering angel is a human being that has lived and died that look after their family. You could consider a grandmother your guardian angel. Those are ministering type angels, and I totally believe that. There's no question about that, and that's just true. For me, that's true. But when you come from a religion, that isn't just religion or just like the Book of Mormon or a specific doctrine that's pertinent just to that faith. Well, I guess there's the Torah and there's different ones, but there's the culture is very powerful, almost more powerful than even the scriptures are, like church standards, and how to act and what to say and where to be and how to look cool, which is by saying, getting up on the podium and saying that, I know that this church is true and that prophet so-and-so is the true prophet in the world today that is guiding this church. And yes, they are guiding the church. There's no question about it, right? And, but in the temples, which, come on, there are rituals there, okay? Which is, not so far different from other types of masonry that we know that have, like the 33rd degree Masons or the Eastern stars. Some of them that kind of go out on the limb, like Skulls and Bones and whatever, I don't know anything about those, and I don't know anything about witchcraft or anything that's about, you read the media, you know what devil worshiping is, because, you've read and you've heard, what that's like, but I don't, even though he's visited me before, I know exactly who he is. And there's something I can tell you about that. But anyway, but when you are so entrenched in a faith that when all of a sudden, the bubble is burst and you find out some new things that are very uncomfortable, you don't want to know, just want to, okay, we're going to go to the next chapter. This is who we were. I mean, the church has been doing this all along throughout, from the very beginning. They go through segments where they realize, okay, we screwed up there, you know, polygamy didn't work, so now we got to bump it up, and we got to bump it up, you know. So, and, you know, okay, you know, our black Americans, you know, now they can hold the priesthood. Before they couldn't, you know, they couldn't go to the temple, but now they could. And, you know, we didn't like homosexuals, but now we have to tolerate them. You know? So along the way, you know, they've had to make concessions just to be competitive, right? You know, but still, ultimately, you know, they're still pretty much in the dark ages as far as, you know, their belief systems, you know, which in some ways is not all bad. You know, we do want to protect our children, we very much we do, and to keep them from harm's way, because the world is, whew, it's really, so very wicked. But you never expect wickedness to come from those groups. That's the difference. That's what happened to me. You never expect religious people that believe in these cultural families are forever, and that it's all about mom and dad, sister, brother. You never imagine that, you know, horrific betrayal could happen with family that's right there, you know, with you. You can't, there's no way, you know. I once had, which time, well, there was an experience I had that was really traumatic one time. It was when my kids were in Oregon. I think maybe I've mentioned something about this, where my husband betrayed me, deeply betrayed me. And there was no way to just, my child was hurt. I had to call the law. And I'd been going to the doctor with my child because something was wrong with my child. And I knew something was wrong, you know. And then, you know, long story short, I discovered how deeply, and he was actually my second husband. No, my third husband. Sorry. Yeah, you know, I really know how to pick them. Anyway. But anyway, and the veil was thin. And I think that when you're a mother, especially when you're a mom, but even dads too, I think that if you're really in tune with God, that He will talk to you, and He will tell you when you need to do something, you need to go home, something's happening. And so, and I've had, you know, that happen to me from the Holy Spirit, but I've also had that happen to me throughout my life from ministering angels. For real. They actually did do that. So, and you know, and for them to say that me being a spiritualist and all this stuff is wrong, you know, I don't practice any kind of witchcraft. I don't even practice masonry of any kind. You know, I pray and I ask Heavenly Father for answers, and my ancestors, and you can call them downloads, you can call them revelation, you can call them inspiration. But He tells me the things I need to know. And when I hear something, I can tell. You know, I can just tell. And I ask a lot of questions, annoying questions that nobody likes. And yes, that's another thing. Now, I have been through husband's cheating. I have been through my husband harming a child. I've been through friends, even members of the church, that betrayed me in order to steal something that was mine. I've been date raped more than once. And, I've had so many, near misses on my life. And when I think about some of these situations, sometimes I lose my breath. Sometimes it's hard to breathe. Because I couldn't imagine, you know, people that I love and trust that would ever, in a million years, ever do anything to harm me. But, you know, and they use it under the facade or do it behind the scenes so that you don't know that they're doing it behind your back. But they have this plan orchestrated because you're not who you think you are, and that your whole life is a lie. Your whole life is. And everybody starts acting strange, and you start asking questions, and then the attacks come more and more because you're asking all these questions that don't make any sense. But comes a point where there's only so many apologies and apologetics that you can make. There's only so many narratives after each, what every 10 years, every decade. Okay, well now we got to change things up again because now they found out about this. We're going to have to bump it up to this, And as you keep going along, you realize, that all of us, first of all, in compassion, we're all doing the best we can, right? With the knowledge that we have maybe at a particular time of the world. And all of us are seeking God. Or aliens, I don't know, angels. We're seeking, what is it? The reason for being, man's reason for being, and why are we here, and what this whole human experiment is supposed to be like, and maybe it is just a human experiment to see how we're going to learn and grow, and but sometimes it's like so I guess I would describe my situations that. It's so earth-shattering to me that it's almost like somebody I was sucker punched over and over and over again, and pretty soon you just don't respond. After a while when you kick somebody or even an animal, if you hurt something over and over and over again, pretty soon they don't feel anything anymore. They just, you can't hurt them anymore. Which is too bad because, and some people want to say, oh, well, that's good for you, it makes you stronger. No, I don't think kicking the crap out of somebody emotionally makes them stronger, or by doing so, making them believe that there is no God and there's no justice and there's nobody that actually cares about each other, and that, we're here just to bully each other. I don't think that's what we really want, do we? Is that what you want? Let me ask people from overseas. Do you really want to be treated like your life means nothing? And that we're here just to take advantage of each other? And that we're not here for this greater reason? And that we can't make the world a better place? We don't actually have to be jerks all the time and only looking out for ourselves, but we can look out for others too? Now, I am gone through massive what do they call it? Cognitive dissonance, because of lost religion, lost from everything I've ever been taught. And you know what really amplifies the fact that happened is that my own family, who believed that doctrine, wanted to erase me. They wanted to paint a picture. Okay, they got help, including an ex, right? These people are all in higher, and some of them are even in the higher, echelons of the church. Wanted to erase me because I was given this diagnosis that I was going to die, and I outlived my diagnosis. And so what they do, they called me a liar. And then they came in with a campaign to call me a prostitute, a drug addict. I was homeless. Of course, they pushed me out of my homes, and I had these pets I didn't want to lose, right? And there was, a few weeks there, but then I went and stayed with a friend, and I came, here, to sleep on the couch or take a shower here. So it wasn't like I was completely stranded, but some certain things happened, and mail stolen while I was in between homes, and going to the police and saying I'm missing my mail, and, and really, and I've told you other things that have happened along the way. But when a baby is born, and we are given that, we protect them. And by golly, if we don't protect them, somebody should take them away if they're in harm's way, because, and even so, you don't want to, and with divorces going on, it's not always just one person's fault, right? It could be, when you go through a divorce, sometimes the exes don't, try to mess up that child against the other parent, which is just the cruelest thing you could do to your child. It's not as bad, doing that isn't just harmful to you or to the other person that you're attacking. It's harmful to the child because it's messing them up mentally by trying to, make that child dislike their other parent. It is not God ordained to do that to anyone for any reason. No. And so I'm in a situation where, and everybody knows this too, where the crime has run deep surrounding me. And I know very soon, I'm going to find out what the big secret is, because I was never told I was adopted. But I learned some things along the way, and I've been begging government to give me all the information about who the parents are. I mean, how many adoptions do you know of where somebody adopts a baby, but they get paid to keep that child, and somebody's paying them? What kind of adoption is that? That doesn't make any sense, right? You don't pay the adoptive parents. You know, and then all of a sudden there's missing birth records. You know, they don't want anybody to find out that you're alive because they've gone and told everybody that you're dead. And they know you're alive. So now you're a fraud. You lied about having the cancer, having the doctor tell you that your cancer came back. And, you have a fundraiser at Club 90 with a bunch of friends, right? And they're all, well, we had this fundraiser for you, and we want to steal your money and your opportunities that came from Star Maker. So we're going to kind of get rid of you, because we want to take that money. And so, we're going to say you lied, like you're like Belle Gibson, and you lied about your diagnosis, and, which I didn't, so. But, they really knocked themselves out, and to get family members involved. And, when I figured out what was going on at Star Maker, man, I'm trying to get help here, because they love Star Maker, and they followed me over to Smool and over to YouTube and Facebook, and my family, and everybody just got together and did this huge, massive attack. But then finally somebody noticed that here I'm getting attacked, but I'm not doing anything to anybody. They took my vehicle away. I've told you this before, so, here I am doing everything I can to get police help. But, and then when you find out that the police are even allowing them to come into your house, and they sent a guy, okay, when you're on Star Maker, there's people from all over the world, okay? And so it was after I had joined Star Maker that I was approached by the Prince of Dubai, and that I was starting to get, and so was Stephen. I was working for Stephen in West Valley, South Salt Lake, West Valley border. And so it's about the same time that we were both being targeted. But it first started with, I was talking to certain celebrities, but I didn't really believe it was the celebrities, because they have these computerized bots, right? And so, I just figured, I was kind of cautious about the bots. But I watched the people that I knew were there. You know who you are. And I watched the repetitious behavior and how everybody's getting along, and then all of a sudden things change, and you're being ostracized, and you can tell that you're in harm's way, and nobody wants to sing with you, and everybody's like looking at you like you're some kind of a green bug, and you're you're calling people out, and they don't like to be, and so they say you're the problem because you called them out. But when that doesn't work, you go to the business, legal documentation, and you go to them and say, look, this is your documentation here. You're not supposed to be doing this crap, right? This is what's going on, and these are the people that are doing it. And then they tell you, oh, well, you have to prove this. It's like, well, I've got all these snapshots of different conversations I've made to this guy there, and I know what they're doing. And all of a sudden, you've asked them, please don't send me any rap songs. I don't do rap. And they send you all these rap songs that are threatening your life. They're really, really dark ones too, right? And by the time, I was going to the captain, I was trying to get help anywhere I could. And so they knew by the time they were done harassing me and I left them that, that I really had, and I had some evidence of what they were doing. Some of the notifications they sent to me, I'm going to, delete your account, or I'm going to, and songs I would sing and covers I would do, and they would delete them, just right in front of my face. So it's just like there was real problems. And so they were mad at me because, they felt, I guess, that Star Maker, which they were quite challenged, and I left, right? But I didn't know that these guys, not only did my phones get hacked, 2 different times, which I got that kind of, I got that report from Guardia, yes, some Chinese accounts, 38 Chinese accounts, that have my information. But also, I could see what was going on all my platforms. Everything was just going, whew, and I knew it was going on, of course, And so, and I was complaining a lot, I went to the president, and I knew, I'm going to save you the details, because, you'll have to watch some of my other videos. But the point is that, you know, it's one thing for them to think, you know, well, she's going to die. She's never going to find out. We can just steal this stuff because, you know, she's not going to make it anyway. And then all of a sudden I'm so rude to have outlived my diagnosis that, you know, now they have to come up with something else to cover up what they did before. And, you know, and Kenton, what's her bucket? You know what her name is. You know, pretending like they're me and all these copycats out there and fake marriages and, you know, she's unstoppable and all this homelessness. You know, if I had died, you know, this is what they wanted me to go along with this narrative. And he's like, there is no way in hell I'm going to let you say I'm a prostitute drug addict. You know, yes, I do like to party. Yes, you know, I wanted to sing till the day I died. And yes, I was in pain. I was hurting. I saw what was going on. I was frightened for my life because I also thought my life wasn't going to last. Well, none of us are going to last forever. But I really thought, you know, I didn't have that much time. And you know, you have no idea the heavy burden. Oh, until that happens to you, you don't know. You can kind of, you know, you can maybe even empathize. But until it's you, I don't think you just don't know. You know? And I've described this before. But when you're part of a family and you don't know that you are, you know, how this family, you know, you just think you're one of the kids. You know, like I'm child number 3, right? And George and Myrna are my parents. And, you know, there was never any doubt about it. And then all of a sudden, everything that you thought, not only just faith, but everything, like literally everything you thought was real isn't. Everything's a lie. Now, I don't know about you. It took some time to stop being absolutely crushed by my siblings especially, right? Because I don't really, I mean, you know, guys, you know, they can break your heart, but not like your family, you know? That's a particular evil thing. That's really insidious. And it's very hard to, there's no way to wrap your mind around it. You know, it's just, and to find out, you know, from people that are telling you, these people are so excited when you get upset. They just love it when you're hurt. They want you to be hurt. And then you've got some guy that thinks he's tough shit coming around saying, it'll make you stronger, you'll be unstoppable, and it's all gonna be great because they beat you up. And then they find out what schmucks my family is, and they realize they're cooked because they helped them. And now they're cooked too because they helped the family who was jealous steal. They had to get somebody that knew how to, you know, tweak things to come and help them out, you know, and to mastermind this whole new narrative, the other, you know, another type of narrative to help us get from one spot to another. But it would only work if I was to go along with it. And I know, because let's say I had died. I don't want my children to think that I was a prostitute drug addict. No, you know, or that I sold drugs, or that I did, or that anything like that. You know, I'm a decent person. There's no way in hell I'm letting my jealous friends steal from me and defame me. I was clearly a far better friend than they ever dreamed of being to anyone. And I know that someday, you know, they're going to discover what it's like to be betrayed by someone that they really counted on. Betrayal is really an evil thing to do to anyone, especially mother, father, sister, brother, and uncle, cousins. That is the most unrelenting anguish. And woe be damned those that participate in something like that, to harm a person, whether they're innocent or not, to destroy somebody. There's no possible way that anyone could do that and have any faith in Jesus Christ whatsoever. Let's forget about, not forget, but let's set that aside just for a second. Just the intrinsic love that you feel for your own family. Okay, let's say you're not a family that was raised in religion, but you still have a bond with your family. You don't betray each other. That's just no. Well, I mean, there's certain situations, like let's say, you're a child that grew up with abuse, like kind of me, and you're told by your parent, which I was, that this is our family. Don't you dare say anything that's going on in our family, or I will deal with this militarily. This is our family, and I don't want anybody out there knowing what we're doing in here. Why, if you're living a God-fearing life, why would you even worry about something like that? Now, we all know that there's people that have insecurities and weaknesses, and they can meet some guy that screws up their mind. Believe me, all of us have been there. We've believed a guy and we felt so much in love that we didn't know what we were doing. Everybody is likely, and I know that's true. Not only that, everybody has been scammed in some time in their life, and they went along with it, not knowing what they were even getting into. They didn't even know. And when they were being scammed, it was a catfish situation where the guy that was presenting wasn't even the guy. I mean, yeah. And we heard all about that. When kids get on there, they think they're talking to this cute guy, and it turns out to be this gross thing. It's not even the person that they think they're talking to. This is prevalent. How could they hold me accountable for something that millions of people have experienced in one way or the other, where they have been tricked and scammed? And there's all these, maybe celebrities, maybe they're not, maybe they're just good looking, and they're out there and they're, hitting on women, and just making them think that, they're the living end, and they're just like, oh man, I could really love a girl like you. And women, I think, most of us have wanted to have that, security and have that real love in our life. But when you've tried a few times, several times, when you've tried, you finally get to where you're just like, meh, maybe, but I doubt it. It's gonna have to be something pretty spectacular for me to even give that another whirl, right? Because honestly, love has let me down, and I think that a lot of the reason why it has is because of how I was raised and who I was raised by. And the example that was set, and not knowing any better, and nobody really talking about, I mean, that it's toxic, what's right and what's wrong, but there's no verbiage for it. There's no way to express it because they haven't really come up with narcissism or toxicity as much, so you don't really hear it as a kid to know if you're safe or you're not safe. If you're safe at church or you're not safe, or if it's a leader that you respect, you don't want to say anything because, it's the bishop. It's somebody in the hierarchy of the church, and so you don't feel safe saying anything about it. You feel like, okay, everybody loves this person. In fact, that did happen to me. I did tell some friends about a particular bishop once, and they were mad at me. They didn't believe me. Well, much later they did, but at the time, they all loved him. Oh, he would never do that. And they think that you're a liar because you're telling the truth. My gosh, I am very worn out by this situation. And so, and it's very hard to know who is out there that you actually can trust anymore, especially with the internet, and everybody wants to steal from everybody or steal their thoughts and ideas. They want to pretend to be them, and it's so painful because, you think you meet somebody that really does have your best interest in mind, and maybe they do. And so a lot of people, I gave the benefit of the doubts because I know there was such, it was a smear campaign, number one. And so you have to go through the muck to get to the truth. There's layers to that stuff, right? And these people got professionals to run that shit deep, right? Excuse my French, but they did. They ran that smear campaign very deep. So a lot of people didn't even check. They just kind of went along with it. And I literally, after asking for police help, I had to come online. It wasn't like I was trying to spread my truth and my situation out here because I wanted to be attacked and trafficked and bullied and have my information stolen, but I really had no choice. It's like the days where, you know that you can't get any help, and so you have to go to the newspaper and say, hey, look, this is what's happening to me. I really need to get your attention. This is happening. And have somebody take it seriously and investigate it. Because no doubt about it. And now, it has come across my mind, that And you know, I'm really glad that my mood and my emotions changed, because I was really feeling, you know, really sensitive there for a minute, because, you know, when I really, I have an ability to where I have had to learn how to, and I'm sure you've heard where you have to compartmentalize, especially when you're trying to figure things out. You can't always look at things with all your chakras on board. You have to like separate yourself from certain feelings, and so that you can just use your mind and not your heart to discern truth. Your gut, which is emotional intelligence too, to determine, you know, what is real and what is not. Okay? And so, being that I spent a lot of my adult life single, I was considered like, you know, well, she doesn't have a man, so she's easy prey, right? And my siblings really did take so much advantage of me. And a brother that kind of was the patriarch above my sons, you know, even before their missions and stuff. And both of my sons served LDS missions. You know, I really did my due diligence with the church. I really got on board. I knocked myself out doing everything that I thought I was supposed to do. I really did. And that was after I left Kent, right? Because, and believe me, I had to. And I had to do it when I had the chance to do it, because there's no way he would, no, it was the right thing to do. Right when I did it, and I know it was God ordained, because I had help, and it was the right thing to do for me and my children, because he was totally using us. And it's proven now, because I know for a fact that he and Victoria got together to go down and do whatever in Asheville, North Carolina, to steal that property from JD, from me, and my grandparents, whatever they left for me. Yeah, they did. There's so much betrayal. If you know, it's said that if you live by the sword, you will die by the sword. If you live by betrayal, you will lose your life by betrayal. We don't want betrayal. We don't want betrayal even at a higher level. We don't want betrayal in government. That happens to us all the time, and we don't even know. And that's really, I mean, we all have for so long, well, decades, have believed, you know, in our the country, you know, the United States of America. Everybody wants to be here, and really it is the best country to be at, you know, with technology and a powerful military, and, you know, there's some, you know, people, you know, have the chance to become wealthy here, and they want to be here, and there's movie stars here. But as the internet progressed, we it's been used by powerful people to prey on sheep, the people that aren't paying attention. And all of us have played the part of the sheep before, where we think everything's fine, our country's great, the church is great, our family's great, and everybody's treating each other great, and oh gosh, we love each other, and everybody's happy, and we don't even know the level of betrayal that's actually going on behind our backs. And everybody trying to prove that they are me, or a copycat of me. Well, I'm going to prove to you as best I can. I mean, you know, because they got into my phone and they got my ID. I told you the story about when I was over in Salerno, how Anna's camper was broken into when we were at the beach, and they stole just my purse, not Anna's, just mine, and my passport, and everything was in there. And so somebody in Italy, and probably is sporting my passport over there too, and Guardio telling me that 38 Chinese companies have my data. So, you know, but, you know, the thing is that we've got some people in our country that help these people do this. And to set me up to look like I was having, from a scam, sent a guy toward me that was pretending to be one guy. And then when that guy actually finds out, because I don't know, did I tell him that, look, somebody is using your pictures to be you. Maybe I sent that to him at some point, I don't know. And then I did, but after harassment and threats, you know, I realized I'm in danger, and I called West Valley Police, and I reported it. And they know I did too. Oh, they know. I reported, and they also know if they were to look at Stephen Farrow's accounts that somebody stole $30,000 from him when he was banking with Wells Fargo. All of this is true. I have no reason to lie to anyone. Yes, all of us have been naive. And when you think somebody's a doctor and that they're teaching, big, lectures in Los Angeles to teach them how to do what plastic surgery, you think, okay, well, America likes this guy, and I'm not a prejudice. I've never been, I don't like prejudice of any kind. I really don't. I've never been on board with prejudice. But I am aware. Now, when I was on Star Maker, and I know the Prince of Dubai, a few times, converse with me on, I figured it was just a computerized bot. I didn't actually believe it was him until he actually texted me on my regular phone number, which, of course, Star Maker has your phone number. And they were always, the whole time I was on Star Maker, my phone was getting hacked. The whole time. And even when I try to change my password, you can do the research too, it's true. I tried to change my password on that music app so many times, and finally, they wouldn't let me put any special characters in my passwords. And they can run these queries where, all the possible queries until it finally lands on your password, especially if there's no special characters. And they weren't allowing me to put special characters in my password. And I was I was really upset most of the time because I was being bullied so much on that app. And finally, I just said, I had enough. I left, and I figured, if I went to Smule, which is a US-based, music app, that I would be safer. And, I'm pretty sure it's right. But when I left that app, that's when I got scammed by some people from Dubai, and yes, I sang with some people, like I said, if you're on the app and you think that there's some sort of security, some sort of security system to protect people that are on this worldwide app, right? But I realized that there really wasn't. And that me and my naivete, was seeing some people that, I was trying not to judge. I was being Christ-like. I wasn't being judgmental. I don't care what color you are. I don't care where you're from. I had friends that were every nation, right? From everywhere. And everybody did. It wasn't just me. Everybody had friends from everywhere that was there. So to say that it was me or my particular problem, no, it wasn't me. No, everybody had friends from everywhere, all over the world there. So I didn't do anything to betray my nation. No. Nice try. But they sent some people toward me. And I think I believe, I totally believe, it was on purpose. Because of the smear campaign with a group of people on Star Maker that I had been families with, that I'd been friends with, singing with, that collaborated with some people that actually know my true identity. And so it was planned. I'm not going to pretend I'm stupid. I've been through too much. I investigated too deep. And, and I finally have some validation that what I'm telling you is absolutely true. Now, I loved the app. I did. And I'm not going to blame the people of the app unless, of course, the owners, which I'm sure that they weren't too happy to know that I could be a potential threat after I was harassed so much. But that wasn't my fault. I was trying to take care of myself, defend myself. My phones were hacked. 2 iPhones, And then setting up the scenario with this, guy from, that was from Arabic descent, anyway, from Dubai, somewhere from the Emiratis, right? And so, and then, of course, you've got one with Israel, too. And, everybody wants to go to Israel and study more about Jesus Christ, so, and I care about them. And then, about Angel Studios doing all those Jesus films, and they're filming there. And, but then you've got you've got over here in Utah, you've got, the Underground Railroad thing, that are they're saying they're going out to get trafficked people, when I was the one that was primarily being trafficked because of who I'm related to and what's involved with who I'm, because of, my blessings. Let's just put it that way. But I'm a human being. Why would I sacrifice myself or let you sacrifice me? Oh, hell no. Are you nuts? I'm a human being, and I don't care who I'm related to. I'm a good woman. I'm a Christ-like and God-fearing woman. I would never betray any of my family. I wouldn't even fathom it. That's why I know that even though they wanted to do that and they were scamming me my whole life and stealing my whole life, because remember, it was a paid adoption. It wasn't an actual adoption. It was an organized adoption. And the people that had me were getting paid. So no, it wasn't your typical thing, right? I know, and the government knows. And these were the, and so, and a lot of these, these strange adoptions, I guess, happened in the 60s, right? And here I am trying like hell to get somebody's attention, to pay attention to me and hear what I am saying. Look, something's going on here. And I mean, I always knew when I was growing up that there was just something, the way I was being treated was wrong. It was just off. With everyone, not just my own family at home, but cousins and relatives. Don't you think I know? Oh, I knew. There was something different. And why they didn't like me, or what, I didn't understand what the difference was, or even why they were treating me that way. But you know what? Just because they acted that way, I've always known I was pretty awesome. They didn't know that I always knew that I was freaking awesome. And very smart and very talented. These people don't intimidate me because I already know and always knew. And yes, it hurts you when you don't know the facts and people are acting a certain way and you just want to get along and you love them and you're just like, and they're just saying, oh, it's just the way that it is, and they're dynamic, and these two siblings want to be the hot shots, the powerhouse of the whole damn family, and and all of these other scavengers want to come along, and that's really what they turned out to be, as scavengers. They didn't care about me or my kids. In fact, they knocked themselves out to change the minds of my children about me. I'm not going to let my kids already know that I'm not a prostitute. And never have I been a prostitute or a drug addict. Yes, I've partied in my young life. I'm not going to deny it. But no, I wasn't so addicted that I couldn't get off it because I never went to rehab. I got to, let's see. Like many Americans, I was set up, well, no, that's a different story. I was set up in Oregon when I first went there to work for Intel Corporation. And everybody had a party to welcome all the people from Arizona accounting. They all came all the way over to Oregon, to Hillsboro. We all went out and have a big celebration, and believe me, the executives were wasted. They were wasted. I wasn't wasted. I was like barely 0.10, and some officer, stopped me, but then he comes back the next day and said, I'm so sorry. And he goes, you were just like even just barely, just right on, but I was devastated because those people and I just had barely moved to Oregon for this new job. It was really strange but I, that was, expunged, never happened again. Did everything, and they made a big impression on me. I learned a lot from the experience, okay. Met a few people, who you are, along the way when I was, having to go to a certain amount of meetings and, met some people there that affected my life forever. But the thing is that, we are here to learn, and it's not, and you can be forgiven. It's not about forgiveness, because everybody can be forgiven by God, and I think it really is having a desire to be, and the intention is true. It's not faked. It's not a fake thing, and you're not being arrogant and, trying to pull one over on somebody by pretending to be penitent when you're not. There's a difference, because when somebody has remorse, they're literally devastated, brokenhearted. Not because they got caught, because they're really feeling what they did. Yeah. I wanted to show you some pictures of my family. Cousins. Mostly the Richardsons, but I have some pictures of the Christiansons too. But if it all comes down to that, you know, if I have to revisit that, because I really have cut the cords, I owe it to myself just to try to heal myself and to realize that this is one of those things that is so diabolical. It's just beyond. I have to protect myself now and my future. I owe that to myself. I never deserved what these people did, and I'm so. The truth is it's hard, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Because lies are betrayals. When you lie to people, I mean, it's devastating when a wife or husband finds out their spouse cheats, or if a child has lied, or siblings have, you know, it's just, especially when you have gone through cancer treatments and then you've given another diagnosis and you find out for real, they don't want you to live. They want you to be dead for real because they've committed so much crime around you. They didn't care at all. When I was living at my brother's and the bullying that went on there, oh my gosh, I don't owe anybody anything, but I owe myself everything. And no matter what, I pick me first, no matter what. I respect myself. I respect myself because I know who I am. And it isn't that I have never made a mistake in my life, but I guarantee you, I would never betray my family like this. Not in a million years. No way. I wouldn't. Mother, father, sister, brother. Families are forever. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. And they know better. If you're healing from betrayal, I hear you. It's devastating. It's like you feel like your whole world is upside down. And the grief and the heartache is just so tremendous. You don't even know how to even breathe sometimes. It's just like, and I was going to say that when something tremendous like that happens, I had a psychologist tell me it's like a broken leg. Your psyche, it cracks or splits, you know, it tears. Almost like a real physical wound. It isn't just, trauma is not just a emotional thing. It's actually a physical tear. Your brain actually changes from extreme trauma. It does. And everybody's done so much research on stress that we know that's true. We know it's true. You know, I can honestly tell you that I do believe in God. I believe in Savior Jesus Christ. I know there's more to learn, but I do believe in a divine creator that made each and every one of us. And I know we are not here to be fighting with each other. That humanity really does need people that give a damn about each other. And we need a government that gives a damn about us. Truly. Enough to do their homework. To not take advantage of us, but to really give a damn about the justice system. Just got kind of dizzy there for a second. That was strange. That was a strange feeling. The justice system. We're counting on you. You elected officials. We're counting on you. Justice, it really does matter. Truly. Each and every one of us, our lives are meaningful. Parents to your children and children to your parents. And we owe it to each other to be able to count on each other. And to count on our communities and our police force. Our lives literally depend upon it. And I do say this to you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.